Board games, board games. I might be talking about board games, but I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing, and today I am going to eat some food, but more pertinently, I'm going to talk about Dragonmeet. Eating food is something I do every day, so I do not know why I mentioned that, but anyway. Dragonmeet, it's what I'm talking about. A retrospective of Dragonmeet yesterday. I'm not gonna shout. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. I am Bez, and this is episode 498 of Busy Beats and Briefer Blether. Now, I do want to give a quick apology for not streaming yesterday. There was basically there was no Wi-Fi and there was no reception, so I wasn't able to stream my talk as I had hoped. But that is the way that it is. So anyway, Dragonmeet, how did it go? Let's talk about the good. Let's talk about the lessons. Let's talk about what I was expecting. Let's talk about how I was a little bit anxious. And frankly, it was the third thing I've been to since 2020, February, March 2020, Aircon. I went to UK Games Expo then just this year, after a year and a bit of not being at any convention. And now, in almost 2 years, this is the third convention I've been to. I went to UK Games Expo with Jason, who was amazing and took care of so much of it. I went to a small local convention, which was a tiny Christmas market, and that was fine. And I was being paid to be there as an artist, which was an amazing thing. And I had Layla come and help me. And then this time, oh yeah, this is my wristband from being at Dragonmeet. And it was the first time that had really been, hey, can anyone help me? I would like everyone to help me. I had Chris there. Of course, I see Chris every week. I was able to make sure that they know all the games. The other people, I wasn't sure. I was concerned. What if we get overwhelmed? What if we don't have enough people? What if I don't have a crowd? What if it's not a good 2 p.m. event? What if I mess up something major? What if I forget how to run these conventions? Well, the 2 p.m. event didn't even happen because there was only one family of 4, admittedly, there. I could have run it, but I didn't want to run an event just for one group. I think it needs to be at least 3 people. 3 people minimum, and it needs to be at least 2 groups, otherwise I'm not running it. But it went so well. I am so excited. I'm so glad that it went, and I'll be sharing some pictures. So, let me talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. Before I talk about Dragonmeet, I just want to talk about very quickly Friday, where I went to playtest. That was good. I played a couple of games of a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different whilst watching out for turnips. Checking if the graphics were okay. Should it be more difficult? Should it be less difficult? It seemed to work well. Played a conspiracy prototype by Max. Was really enjoyable, really interesting. A game for education, trying to teach people about conspiracy theories. It could have been simplified, but there was so much interesting negotiation going on. And then there was an auction game by Ellie Dix where you were raising the prices of things, and then you were the things that you were bidding with, you were changing the values of those items, so that at the end of the game, that would be the value of the things. And that was really lovely, and I just want to acknowledge that playtest on Friday was a lovely time. And Hello, CD, who says there's no point in worrying about everything. I'm going to kind of... to some extent there isn't, but to another extent, if you kind of worry and say, hey, what if this, you are able to make fail-safe plans. So there's a sense, there's potentially a utility, but I do get your point. There's no sense in endlessly worrying. That's not useful. But having a little concern and then thinking, okay, what about this? Okay, here's being aware of these things can sometimes help. But yes, good morning, thank you, and good evening to you. I hope you're having a wonderful day and you're looking forward to a beautiful night. It's been a wonderful day, it will be a beautiful night. Okay, let's talk about games played yesterday. What did you play? I only played my own games because I was demoing stuff. I watched a bunch of people play Kitty Cataclysm. I taught that to a couple of people. I didn't play it myself. I did play a good few games of a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and watching out for turnips. I think I might have messed up once. People enjoyed it. I also joined in a few games of a game about wee whimsical creatures and tried to identify them after someone makes noises. That was such a popular thing. I took 40 copies of each of those two games for the busy budget bags. I took 40 copies of each of them, and yeah, a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises sold out at around maybe 6 p.m. So I could have maybe taken 5 more, but I'm very happy with that. And then I came back home with 10 copies of a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different whilst watching out for turnips. And again, I'm really happy with that. I feel like I did a good job at estimating it. I know it might feel like very egocentric to be talking about what I did well, but I want to acknowledge that. And also I played a few games of Categorickell. CD planted broad beans and snow peas in pots and wrapped all the presents. That sounds fantastic. Has been watching the losers, Ilka and Dave Loser, play Lucid Forest, possibly another game. And has played a lot of Galaxy Trucker today. Ooh, that's a classic. Let me try and, I do apologize, get some photos from I put up some photos just now onto Twitter so that I could share them. And I will also share some photos. So firstly, from Alex, here is a photo of me at Dragonmeet. So yes, let's talk about Dragonmeet. And if you want to talk more about your stuff like Galaxy Trucker, fantastic game, but this is Dragonmeet. It was quieter than 2 years ago for sure. It was bigger though. It had more space. There were more traders. This probably reflects an average of there just weren't that many people. There's me in the background. You can see me. I've got kind of my hair is up and it's coming down, so that's me in the red. And just in front of me is Rory in the red t-shirts and grey trousers. Got a bunch of games and we're doing demos. Hello, Dutch Yoda. There were more traders. Yoda, such a troll. Hello. And so, yes, Dragonmeet for me started off with started off rushing in the morning. I got up at 4:30. I admittedly did not get as much sleep as I would like, and I seem to have a wee bit of a cold today. But even despite getting up at 4:30 and thinking, oh, what am I going to do? And I was putting things together, getting notes ready for my talk, and getting myself sorted, like with bath and everything, and packing my bags, and I only ended up going to Dragonmeet at like 9:30, and I had a couple of messages from people saying, hey, you're not here, are you okay? And Ray, who was in charge of the talk, at 9:25 saying, hey, you're not here yet. Now, for my talk, people were spread out. There were two people sitting together who came in together, but I think there were a good 15 people watching, even though this looks like was basically no one. I talked about why making a game is a thing that everyone should give a go. Just like you might not be a professional writer, but you do a bit of writing. Maybe you don't do poetry, maybe you aren't a poet, but maybe you might write one poem just as an expression of love or just as a creative outlet. And this can be something that you do with games, do you know what I mean? And hello, Nicholas. It is lovely to see you. And yes, my talk went well. So let's go to Alex's other thing. Yeah, this is probably early on in the day. Oh no, this is towards the end of the day because there's only one copy of Kitty Cataclysm. So let's talk about sales. I sold a good amount of stuff. I made an approximate guess of how much stuff I would have to sell. I took 40 copies of each of my bags. I sold out of one, had 10 remaining of the other, took about 10, 15 copies of each of my other self-published game, Wibble++ Deluxe, Wibble++, and Kitty Cataclysm. I sold out of the Kitty Cataclysm, which was really nice. I think I could have maybe sold 3, 4 more, I don't know, but I'm not sure. And everything else, there was a bunch left, and I'm happy with the kind of estimates that I made, if that makes sense. Looking at my background, I do notice that there's not a lot of red in those banners. There's only bits of red and a bit of white. But yeah, this is Alex's other photo, which is of Library Labyrinth, our friends from the show, Jess. And you can see again, it's busy enough. There's people playing games, people are having fun, but there's not loads of passing traffic. There's not loads of crowds or anything. Oh yeah, this is Robert's photo of a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and watching out for turnips. I think that people really like my new naming system, and people did seem to like the art. So that was fantastic. Let's see. Oh yes, this is my own photo. So there's Chris on the right, all dressed up in red. Actually, I've given Chris that jumper and those trousers, so Chris has more red clothes. Chris did not have enough red clothes. I was disappointed. Chris only had a red top. My helper on the right, Rory, came along and just did a fantastic job. It was so brilliant, and unfortunately I don't have a picture of James, but all three of them just felt they were so invested, so passionate about everything, and having so much fun. And seeing people, hearing stories. Apparently, one person has played one of my games with 100 people in a school assembly. They showed all the creatures on digital boards with kids in the school assembly, and then they had lots of children kind of voting, and then they just gave points for being correct. And that was a really cool idea. And so I was really honored. But yeah, there you see earlier on in the day where we've got to white bit. There's Flavien Loisier, who runs Hachette UK. In the background, UK Games Expo, they had a stand opposite me. Mandela, another lovely designer. And this is a sort of middle-ish of the day. Again, you can see there's a good crowd, there's a good buzz, there's lots of people playing games, but it's not too packed. There's a lot of space between people. There's nothing like people barging into everyone, and everyone was wearing masks. I think I saw maybe 4 people during the course of the day who weren't, and I had some squeezy bottles of hand sanitizer before people were playing. I said, do you mind having a squeeze? Everyone was totally okay with that. It went really well. I think that the safety was really good. And thanks, CD. Yes, I'm so honored. People using my game for it's just so exciting. Anyway, and yes, it was I'm not going to call it a good day out, but because if you had gone then it would have been more of a day out for you, because for me, obviously, it was a bit more work. I'm going to get to that highlights and stuff later on. Here's Robin. Robin is a friend of mine. Circulari, I have playtested this. I don't remember exactly how it works, but I remember being seriously impressed. There's some really interesting design choices in here, and it felt like a fascinating puzzle, unlike anything I had ever seen before. Robin's been working on this one game for several years, and I'll definitely be giving it wee bits of support on day one. Circulari. There again is Jess, and there's someone else who knew that I was taking a photo but couldn't be bothered posing. What's that all about? That just seems curmudgeonly. But good old Jess, I say old, but good, like, good reliable Jess Medringham, who like, does the big, like, pose, yeah. Library Labyrinth and some other game. There's Catherine Morgan, who makes edible dice. After UK Games Expo, I had a show where I ate some of Catherine Morgan's dice, and they are delicious. And there's Christopher Egert from Tabletop Gaming Magazine doing an interview, and I just didn't want to bother them. These are people who are making changeable meeples. This is a really interesting idea. So you can sort of see the meeples have two halves, you can separate them and then put them together. That's pretty cool. But I don't really want them for myself. I mean, if it was part of a game, that would be cool. Like, there would be applications. But just having them to custom... I don't know. Like, it feels like a good idea, but it needs an application. Do you know what I mean? So yes, changeable meeples. That felt like a really interesting thing. Here's some friends, like, there's Dragon in the Middle, Penance RPG, like, lovely people, all of them. Dragon has been on the show before, and just wonderful people. Like, there is a whole row of podcasters, and you go past and you're like, oh, what are you doing? And then they tell you about their podcast, and some of them, and there was 3 or 4 rooms of seminars, basically going all day. So Dragonmeet is more about RPGs, and I would say that the podcast crew, a lot of it was live plays, and RPG stuff, and a lot of the seminars were how to build a world, how to tell a good story, how to make an RPG, and then there were maybe like 2 things that were not just RPG. But even if you like RPGs and you like board games, it would be an amazing day for you. If you like just board games, I think it's still worth going, but I'm not sure if it would be worth traveling very far for. But yeah, it would be worth, in my opinion, having like maybe spending overnights. I don't know. It's up to the individual. There's Ed Jowett. Ed Jowett's just like so prolific. It's amazing. Like, they wrote this entire book and other books during lockdown. I came in and I said, oh, I guess you've slowed down a wee bit because of pandemic. And then Ed said, oh, I don't know, look. And I was like, wow, Ed, you are a machine. And so, yeah, Shades of Vengeance. This is like an unstoppable force. Lots of love, CD. Thank you very much. And yes, I will see you I'm going to do one stream tomorrow, same time, 10 a.m. UK time, and then episode 500 is going to be next Saturday, starting 10 a.m. UK time and finishing 11 a.m.-ish the next day, so 25 hours. But lots of love, have a wonderful sleep. And there's that. This is towards the end of the day. People downstairs, it was a bit quiet, but there's like lots of cool stuff to see, lots of trinkets. If you like jewelry, if you like dice trays, there's lots of stuff. And there, of course, is Alex, Aquasulus, Alex Cannon. That is what they look like these days. And yeah, that is that. Let me get a wee photo of Dragonmeet. I think that's probably the best photo, and let me do that. So, yes, I am going to go through highlights, achievements, and lessons of Dragonmeet. And if you have any questions, then please do ask along the way. So firstly, let me celebrate my highlights. people having fun with games, that is always a good thing. Selling out of games, I mean, it does mean that maybe I didn't take enough, but it does mean that people love them. And it means that it surpassed my expectations. I was expecting 40 copies of a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises to be enough. I was expecting maybe, okay, I might have, like, I wasn't certain, but I thought it would be enough. But it wasn't. Like, I sold out, and then around 6, like 1 hour before closing, someone said, oh, are there any copies left? Someone said, oh, I just got the last one, sorry. And it was like, yeah, that's fantastic. So apparently, people actually started coming to my table at the start. Like, while I was away doing my talk, apparently people came along just at the start of the day and bought Kitty Cataclysm and bought a game about wee whimsical creatures and tried to identify them after someone makes noises. I guess the word is spreading. It feels like people are finally starting to know who I am. And people are starting to recognize not only individual games, but people are starting to trust me as a brand. There was a person who came over and said, oh, I just want to say thank you so much. My boy... So they told me that their child really enjoyed playing my games at UK Games Expo, and even after they had bought my games, they wanted to keep playing at the stand. And they said, oh yeah, we've had so much fun with it as a family. And then I said, oh, by the way, would you like a demo of my new thing? And I said, oh no, I don't need a demo. How much is it? Okay, I'll just buy you a copy. And I said, oh, and they said, absolutely, I trust you. You make good games. And yes, £5 isn't that much, but it feels like if it was just a stranger, would they have bought that? I feel like I've developed trust, and it feels like the 7 years of doing games in the public eye. Like, it's been more than 7 years since my first Kickstarter, and it feels like things are starting to pay off, which is amazing. And so that is fantastic. Yeah, just seeing loads of friends briefly and so many cool folk, even though you don't get to chat to them as much as you like, but just being around all these people, it's fantastic. I got interviewed by Chris from the Tabletop Gaming Magazine. That was lots of fun. And I chatted with James Wallis about my games, showed them what I'm working on, and they said, oh, that's really good. And chatted about business, about what should happen. And also, like I said before, seeing my helpers be invested and so passionate about the games. And sandwiches. Normally, I don't buy sandwiches. I buy chocolates, crisps, and peanuts, and tomatoes. Now, I wanted individually wrapped things. I bought only chocolate that was individually wrapped, Kit Kats, and I had also other stuff. Basically, the sandwiches were just such a nice thing to have. I thought that, okay, at some point we might go off and buy a hot meal, but there's still 2 sandwiches left over. But like, that's fantastic. It means that everyone was fed. I was able to make sure, are you happy? If you want any more food, please help yourself to a couple of sandwiches. And like, just for the helpers, obviously, not for everyone passing by. Towards the end, I did offer Kit Kats to my friends who were passing by, but yeah, that was fantastic. I want to talk about my achievements. I guess what I haven't written is that I did a good estimate. Like, it wasn't perfect. I could have taken more cats and more game about wee whimsical creatures, and I could have taken less of Wibble Plus Plus. But it feels like broadly I did it well. I bought a good amount of food and lozenges. People really like the lozenges. When I asked, would you like lozenge? So my helpers like, oh, actually, I hadn't thought of it, but yes, I would. And I made them aware. And I think that reminding your helpers, hey, do you need a lozenge? Sometimes checking in with them. Because sometimes people forget to take care of themselves. So sometimes it's important to say, hey, do you need a drink? Do you need a lozenge? Something to soothe your throat? And then see how they're feeling. And so that was fantastic. managing to make it in time and keeping up the energy. These were my achievements. I do have a few things that I could have done better, though. A few lessons. So, firstly, um, my tights that I was wearing, they were a bit too small. They kind of kept slipping down. I kind of need to get rid of them. I like the fabric. They're breathable. They're warm, but they're not good. I need to get rid of them. I'm also going to say that people like cats and people like the bargain bags. I need to be aware of that. That could inform future how much stock I take. That could inform in future what games I make. I mean, I'm going to make sure that I keep making these budget bags. I'm going to the quickly grabbing stuff, it seems to be more normal. But making noises, that's more outlandish. I'm going to make sure that with my future busy budget bags, I do keep at least 1/3 of them just outlandish ideas that I've not seen anywhere else. I don't know if it will work, but I am going to do a print-on-demand version of a game about drawing creatures, complementing the drawings, then complementing the complements. I am going to do that, and I also have many other ideas, and I could probably make 5 or 10 games about quickly grabbing things that are. But at this point, it's becoming like a line. I need to make sure that there's variety. Make sure that people who buy everything that I make don't feel, oh, these two games are very similar. I slightly regret buying them. I need to make sure that there's enough difference and there's enough variety and enough other stuff that someone who is buying everything that I make is happy with that decision. I want to make that a real thing. And finally, I want to make it clearer what I expect from volunteers. I felt like in future, there were some things that I could have said, yes, when it's quiet, if someone's looking at stuff, we want you to go around and offer them a quick explanation if someone's like looking at a group for longer than a couple of seconds. Say, hey, would you like to get a quick explanation? Because people normally, I would say, don't want to wait until the end of the demo to join in. But if it's just, a 30-second explanation or a 1-minute explanation, yeah, that's something that I have time for. And so, also kind of getting more materials ready to say, hey, this is how to teach these games. And for my new busy budget bags, those were new, but that's definitely something that I can improve and get in place for next time. But overall, Dragonmeet, it was a fantastic time. And I'm so glad I went. All those concerns that I have, all those fears, yes, it wasn't as busy as I would have liked. The 2 p.m. event didn't spark. I didn't manage to get my 2 p.m. event to fire. There just weren't enough people. But I felt like I did have a crowd. And on the other side, there was like Vinny from UK Games Expo saying, oh, Bez, people are just getting to know you make fantastic games and you make simple games but they are fun. Like that. Like I think there's definitely a little bit of self-doubt, which is okay, because you want enough self-doubt to be able to continue improving. You want enough self-doubt and enough worry and enough perfectionism that you never feel like, okay, I've done enough. That's me, I'm perfect, that's it. But I am so far from perfect. But I just want to acknowledge that people are enjoying my games. That's amazing. When I sold like 70, 85, 90, I sold almost 100 games. Like about 95, I don't know. But like that's a lot of people. That's a lot of games that people are going to be having fun with. And yeah, now Nicholas, thanks for being here, and if you've got any questions about Dragonmeet, please do ask. My one thing to say is that obviously my perspective is that of a trader. And so, as a trader, as someone who lives in London, yes, absolutely, I will be here every single year until until I no longer live here. I'm not going to come here from Thailand, certainly not. But yes, I might hang around maybe until early 2023 and be in Dragonmeet next year. I think I could see that happening. It is a good show. There are RPGs to go to. It's very different to UK Games Expo. UK Games Expo, there are RPGs, but the focus is more on the board games, on going around the stalls, having demo games. Dragonmeet continues to grow. And one amazing thing that I saw is that this year, they actually said not only was there Playtest UK, where people can book a table for like an hour for free. When I say for free, yes, you pay your entrance fee, but it's like 25 quid, something like that. And then you get an hour, and then passers-by are coming, playing your game. You might say, hey, this is a game for children. And I talked to Rob Harper, who played their game, Grab Bag Zoo, and Grab Bag Zoo was being played by a family. And said, oh, this would be a really good game for kids. So hold on a second. And then they got their kids, and then the kids came, and the kids had a good time. And then the kids said, oh, can we play again? Then Rob said, yes, look, that's not the most useful feedback, but it's very encouraging and it's very good for the ego. And yeah, Rob has made a great game with Grab Bag Zoo. Congratulations, Rob Harper. And if you're a designer, you can bring your game. And for Playtest UK, you can, if you just want to play other people's games, you could play at Playtest UK all day. You could play from all the traders. You could go downstairs. There are pick-up games of different RPGs. There are seminars. If you're not at all interested in RPGs, if you're quite... Sorry, this sounds horrible. If you're... I was going to say closed-minded, but that's not a good word. If you're very specific about what you like, you're going to find it less to enjoy. But if you're open to story games, and if you're fascinated by pretty things, you will find lots to admire. Where's the window? I want to go back to my one photo that I took from downstairs. These are the downstairs photos. You can see it's more kind of about sellers and traders and saying, oh, that's pretty things and that's quite cool. But upstairs, it's more... I think there were 3 floors. Downstairs, it was these traders. Upstairs, it was me and game players and going into games. And then in the middle floor, it was podcasters and seminars. That's basically how I would put it. Yeah, if for the first year ever, Dragonmeet offered some people a table. It wasn't like it was a terrible position. So I paid extra. I had a good position. People, as soon as they came in, like I was basically the second best position that you could have. Like the best positions are bought like Modifius, the biggest companies. And then you go around the corner, oh, there's stuff by Bez. And I was really happy. And Rory said, oh, this is a really good position. Yeah, I know. I kind of booked it right as early as possible. But for this year, there were some people who had like the first game. And I spoke to... I was speaking to Richard Denning and John about this. And both Dragonmeet and UK Games Expo are very big about pushing newcomers, about encouraging that new blood, making sure that there are more and more and more people making games. I heard that at UK Games Expo, the cost for a starter stand, which is the first time you attend as a trader, you're allowed to buy a cheap stand. either 4 meters or 6 meters. Either way, the price for that stand is less than it costs UK Games Expo to hire that space. So, in theory, they are losing money. In reality, of course, having all these extra places makes it more interesting. Having all these extra traders makes it a more exciting convention to attend, because then you get someone from Birmingham who is able to just go, and maybe they start attending every year, maybe they just go 1 year because it's, and then you have, do you remember that 1 year when someone came with fidget spinners and they completely misjudged the audience? Or do you remember that 1 year where someone has, oh my gosh, it was such a terrible game? And like, there's so many terrible games, but like that gives a bit of flavor, and people sometimes come, and then there's not so much to lose, frankly. It's basically half price. Whereas, and Dragonmeet was doing something similar here, saying, hey, if you're a newbie, if you've got a first game on the go, if you're working on something and you've got a prototype but you want to spend the entire day standing somewhere and getting people to play it, you can. And this was something that they just did as a last minute thing. And I think this is a really interesting trying to push new blood, and I think they make sure that they've got enough interesting things so that any attendees will have lots and lots and lots to see. So I do think, yeah, if you are traveling from far away, if you're thinking about going from Germany to here, I mean, say it came from Germany, maybe ask other people, but I would suggest that, as with any of these things, it is really up to you. I can't say, because how much does it cost? How much is the cost of the travel? How much is the hassle of the travel? What does that financial aspect mean to you? How much joy are you going to get from it? That is such a personal thing that I think I'm just going to leave that decision to you. I don't feel comfortable advising you one way or the other. So that is the end of everything I have to say. So let's move on over to what are you up to? You can share a button if you want to. And Stream Element says, let's do a bit of stretching. Stretching. Left, right. Yeah. So, today I was going to do some yoga, but I am going to stay inside all day and just chill out, and I might watch a film. I might also allow myself to ponder a couple of things. Maybe I will play a game. Basically, today I'm allowing myself to just chill out and do whatever. I've got food in the fridge. I've got a running tap, hot water. I've got cold water to drink. I need nothing else. I'm all good. I feel like I maybe should have a walk around the block, go to the park, something, but I'm not going to push myself. I feel like I'm coming down with a bit of a cold, so that's why I didn't cycle over to the yoga. I might go back to sleep, to be honest. I mean, I did not sleep enough the night before last. But what are you up to? What are you doing? Whether it's something fun and frivolous or whether it's something super serious, I am interested to know what you're up to. Meanwhile, I'm going to recap and wrap up before I finish up. So yes, Playtest UK Friday was amazing as always. I just stayed for a bit of time. I did manage to get to the bank and get some fivers. I learned in future, if I'm going to a bank, don't go on Friday, go on a Thursday. Apparently, they had run out of £5 notes. As it happens, I didn't need those, so it was all good. But yeah, it was a bit annoying. Now, all the prototypes I played, Max was lovely, Ellie is a lovely person. Yesterday was a fantastic day. I am enjoying my own games. I mean, that's a good sign that if I'm still enjoying them. I'm enjoying Categorickell. I'm enjoying trying to win. I'm enjoying game about quickly grabbing turnips and trying that's quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different whilst watching out for turnips. Having that slight oh, how many turnips have I grabbed? Oh, when do I start turniping? Oh, I didn't start turniping early enough. A game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises. I'm enjoying hearing all the noises that everyone comes up with, and that's one of my favourite games to have on in the background, like to be in the vicinity of. It is such a joyous thing to hear, oh, that's going on, okay, what do I think? There were so many highlights, people having fun with the games, selling out of a couple of them, which, given that had taken 40 copies of a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises, I think I did give like 3 copies away to reviewers, and one to Tabletop Game Magazine. I think it might one to Tabletop Game Magazine, one to the charity auction, and one to the person who connected me with Gigamic. So Dave Cousins, I'm not going to charge Dave Cousins for my games. That's basically it. It's like Yogi would not exist without Dave Cousins. So, but yeah, I sold out of 37 copies. That's amazing to me. It took me over a day. Like, it took me basically one day at UK Games Expo to sell 50 copies. So I was not expecting Dragonmeet to be as much as that. Seeing so many people briefly, like seeing Andy Anger, even though we couldn't have a conversation, just saying hello, and Andy being there, and Dave, and Rob Harper, and all these other names that don't mean anything to you, but they mean so much to me. Having Chris from Tabletop Gaming Magazine come over, chatting with James Wallis, and chat about my games and whether James might, what James might want for Green Board Games Company. Seeing people be so invested, not just the people having fun and coming over, but also the helpers who are playing the games over and over and over. And Chris said yes. And that was actually a highlight for me playing Kitty Cataclysm. I was just really enjoying it. Sandwiches, I actually really enjoyed myself having the sandwiches, let alone the other people who enjoyed their sandwiches. I think I did a good job of judging how many to take, making it in time, keeping up good energy, buying food and drugs, by which I mean lozenges, and also there were some caffeine and headache pills that I took at one point. And yes, I do need to get rid of the tights. It's slightly sad, and I'm not sure what to do with it because there's a hole, so it doesn't feel a right thing to pass on to someone, but maybe a friend who's a bit shorter than me might want them, I don't know. And I need to do a reprint at some point of Kitty Cataclysm because I only have like 20 copies left. And I am going to keep making bargain bags. Oh, and I changed the name. It used to be called Bezzy Budget Bags, but now I'm calling them Bezzy Bargain Bags because it rolls off the ba. Ba is better than ba. Like, the ba is a bit harder to say, so Bezzy Bargain Bags is a bit nicer, I think. And also bargain, it sounds like, oh, you're getting a bargain, whereas, oh, budget, you're on a budget. But you don't need to be on a budget to get a bargain, do you know what I mean? So it's like, hey, even if you can afford a £100 game, you still want a bargain, right? And yes, I need to make it clearer what I want from volunteers. And that is that. Firstly, hello to Jess. It is lovely to see you. I hope you're generally well. I did see your video. It looked beautiful. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Nicholas has been starting Machikoro Legacy yesterday and played the first 2 games. I am not a fan of the original Machikoro. Do you think it is something that, as a designer, I should play through for the sake of learning the design lessons, or do you think that it's something that I could overlook? I'll be interested to hear what you think once you've played it through, or indeed your first impressions. Have I tried any new or interesting recipes? Well, wait, did I completely miss out? I did. I never did. Okay, this can be our quick question for today, and the brilliant thing is Dragonmeet. Dragonmeet's brilliant for reasons I've said. No, I haven't tried any new or interesting recipes. I don't tend to try recipes I tend to sort of mix things together. But the last thing I cooked did include okra and mushrooms and a lot of spices and peppers and onions and chopped tomatoes tinned. Was very nice. I look forward to hearing your thoughts about Machikoro Legacy once it's finished. And if you're like, hey, it's good, but it's not groundbreaking in any way, like I find it slightly annoying that people are so hesitant to do spoilerific reviews. I think it's important that people mark things as spoilers, but in the same way that you could talk about films, and people do have analyses of films that require the spoilers to be there. I mean, as far as I'm aware, I am the only person to have done a full review of Pandemic Legacy Season 1 with spoilers, where like I asked people and Dave said, yeah, if you don't do spoilers, it wouldn't be that interesting. But if you did do spoilers, then you can actually analyze it a bit more. I felt like, yeah, you want to warn people that you're spoiling it, but you also want to be allowed to give spoilers in order to really get into the analysis. But anyway, if you want to check me out, I am Stuff by Bez everywhere. I am going to have one stream tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. UK time. I am not sure what I will do. I'll probably put up a Twitter poll. Do you think I should just do you think I should redo my lecture from Saturday? I could redo it because I've got all my notes. Or do you think I should just do like something totally different, like something like whatever topic occurs to me that morning, like I usually do? After tomorrow, I am not going to be streaming in the morning on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I am going to start streaming on Saturday, and that is going to be my epic 500th episode. So for now, share, spread the word. Thank you, everyone. And there is pretty much only one thing left to say. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, bye, and bye, bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, bye, Nicholas. Bye, bye, everyone else. Lots of love. Have a wonderful day. And if you're watching this after the fact, let me know. Have you been to Dragonmeet? Do you think you would want to go to Dragonmeet? What's your favorite convention? What's my favorite convention? Yeah, it's a bit late for me to do that. Well, but lots of love, and bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye.